So I'm just going to back up on my mat. Again, we'll start in a comfortable seat, or maybe you'll begin class lying down. So doing whatever is best for you. Having that seated space or laying down using any props that are helpful. And as we become comfortable, you don't have to close your eyes just yet. I'll have us just talk for a moment as we can find this focus for class. And in some ways, I think this particular theme for class is relative to our own internal experience every day. And it's also relative to the external experience and what we're living with now and experiencing within our world at large. So feel free to take this and find your own representation of it. I'm just going to give us a little background information. And I've learned before different comparisons of healing. So I'm going to express something that I've been taught once that I really like to go back to. And when we think about healing, and lots of times we do come to yoga, whether it's just relaxation or de-stressing, either way, it's part of our healing. Again, whether we're working to heal through the internal experience or the external experience. And lots of times we tend to compare this process of healing to cleaning a kitchen, right? It's like we won't be satisfied until the entire kitchen is cleaned, right? Then I'll feel satisfied. And sometimes we think that about healing, right? It's like, I want every single thing, every single part healed, and then I can be satisfied with my healing. But maybe after all of our own yoga journeys, we've realized that it's so much more than just a simple swipe. So instead of comparing the healing to cleaning a kitchen, let's compare it to cleaning a window. And I'm pointing over here because that's where my kitchen is, and I have a window over here, so that's why I'm pointing that way. But let's compare that healing process to cleaning a window instead, right? You can still have that entire window dusty, dirty, mildewy, whatever, and just a little swipe, a little wipe even, right? You can start to get a small section of light. And this is that process of healing, right? We begin to notice more and more light, even around the shadows or even around any of that darkness or debris or dust. And envisioning our process here throughout our yin practice also as the healing through a window, right? This seems a little more inviting, right? Rather than comparing it to this idea of cleaning the kitchen, it has to all be done to be satisfied. And if you relate more to that kitchen idea, let's begin to envision more and more of this window comparison. And then let's take that into our yin practice today as we're coming into our different shapes. Okay? So whenever you're ready now, I invite you to close your eyes if you'd like. If it's not comfortable to have the eyes closed, just keep the gaze soft, not looking at anything specific. We'll start to arrive into the stillness. We'll start to arrive into the presence of our body, beginning to notice the presence of our breath. And if your eyes are closed, you can notice that internal screen. Letting the eyes adjust there to the different shades of darkness or lightness. And just beginning to observe your internal space. Maybe we can even reference some parts of ourselves within this comparison of the window. Allowing both comfort and discomfort to be present, not only through our yin practice, but also through our process and our experiences of healing. So together we'll find a few cleansing breaths here. Let's first inhale through the nose. And then open the lips to exhale. Again, like that, deep breath in. And a deep breath out. One more time, full big inhale. And a full deep exhale. As we come back to the natural breath, noticing internal warmth from the belly or the chest, or maybe the nostrils within the face. You can keep your hands relaxed where they are. You're welcome to bring them into a prayer shape at heart center. Listening or joining me for the sound of Om as we take a deep breath in. Very gently, you can bow your chin towards your chest, taking a moment to allow the vibrations to settle within the heart space, allowing them to reverberate off of the walls of the inner body, and allow them to seal your intentions for practice. God bless you. So whenever you're ready, you can slowly open the eyes and you can bring the hands away. We'll come out of our seated position. And we're going to actually start with the upper body today. And I'm going to give you two choices. We've all practiced both of these shapes, and you can choose which one you're interested in doing today. So option one is to take open wing. With open wing, we'll allow ourselves to come to the belly. Maybe you have that pillow or blanket to support the head. Your left arm is going to start out into that T shape. Right? Having that arm out into that T shape, you're going to roll into the shoulder. Maybe you have the knees into the chest. Maybe you have one leg on top of the other. Maybe you have that top leg leaning back behind you or in front of you, right? Depending on your hips and what you want to do. So option one is to take open wing with the left arm. Option two, if you don't want to do that or try something different, you'll allow yourself to lay on your back and coming into reversed wing. This left arm will reach underneath the hips or really underneath the spine, depending on where your spine arches. And as you walk your forearm underneath you, you'll begin to lay back down. Knees can stay bent, one leg can lower, or maybe both legs can lower. Okay, so either way, taking open wing or reversed wing, sometimes, at first glance, they both look like shoulder stretches or upper body stretches, but you could possibly feel lower back, middle back, or even lower body stretching. So if you have a question, you're more than welcome to ask, but either take open wing or the reversed. And no rush, of course. You may need props for the head, props for the hips, tailbone, right? Depending on what variation you're in. Regardless, sometimes it's nice to have an extra blanket to support the shoulder or the shoulder blade. Now, if you've chosen open wing, you can keep that right arm in front of the chest, or you can bring that right arm up and around the low back to take a half bind. If you've chosen to take reversed wing, let that opposite arm soften, right? Does it stay near you? Maybe it takes up space along the floor, or maybe it reaches up above the head. So no right or wrong. And of course, we'll close our eyes and then begin to come to stillness. arriving into the space of your body, arriving into the space and sounds of your breath. And again, arriving into that internal gaze behind the eyes. Maybe the sensation is still inviting you here to observe. But within our own time, let's begin practice softening. Remember, when we soften, we allow our awareness to travel through the different places within the body. As it travels, we allow ourselves to relax and to let go of unnecessary control and unnecessary tension. Can we even allow the awareness to invite us into that process of softening? Greeting your internal body more and more as the muscles and bones soften and relax, so that we're not gripping the teeth, so that we're not tensing the tongue, so that we're not clenching at the belly or glutes. Spend a few more moments with your breath here. Now, of course, you can stay here a little longer, or we're all going to take our time to slowly release. Now, if you've taken open wing, you'll want to unbind that back arm. Make sure the legs are one on top of the other before releasing. And if you've taken reversed wing, allow each knee to bend, bringing your feet flat to the floor. And then, of course, you can wiggle that arm from underneath the back. And then we're all going to find these intuitive movements. Do you end up on your belly? Do you stay on your back? Do you roll to your side body? Either way, you may want to windshield wiper the knees from side to side. And you can do this both ways, whether you're on your back or your belly, by bending into the knees and taking them to the one side and then the other. There, I want to lift the chest up or hug the knees in the chest. Just taking as many movements as you'd like here until you find that pause to rebound, where you're going to take that meditative moment. And if sometimes we get confused or we forget what we're supposed to do here in rebound, it's this idea of stopping to smell the roses. Maybe we can even envision that. Whenever we stop to smell the roses, we take that moment to pause and reflect, to notice something we may have missed. The reflection is just as important to the experience, which also connects us to that process, to that transformation of healing. So you're welcome to stay in your rebound for as long as you'd like until you've decided to take the opposite stretch on the opposite side. Now, honestly, depending on what this next shoulder feels like, or if you've had past injuries, or you want to do the other stretch, you don't have to do open wing or reversed wing twice. So if this particular shoulder, if the right arm feels better in the other stretch, take it. All right, but either way, I can see everybody pretty much, so that's good. We're in all of our variations. Remember, we want to ease into the stretch. We're not looking for the deepest sensation the quickest. And a good way to make sure we're riding that edge is if the breath can be present. If you realize that the breath would rather stay back, we may be stretching too deeply, too quickly. Or if you ever realize that the body can't soften, that there may be this slight sense of fear or uncertainty is weighing a little more than the actual stretch, we need to honor the nervous system. So then change your variation or find a prop. Create that space, create that inviting space for the breath to be present, for the body to soften, and that can help guide you into more stretching or less. That is what will benefit the body. And we can help look at how all levels of healing are necessary, from the physical to the emotional to the energetic. And maybe within this time, you've actually found yourself softening already, which is great. Take your time as you release through the muscles of the face, the shoulder blades themselves, softening around the chest and through the diaphragm, and letting the belly expand and soften. Allowing your hips and glutes to relax. Releasing down through the thighs, softening behind the knees. And like a domino effect, you can feel the calves relax and then the ankles relax into the heels of the feet. Checking in with your breath. Checking in with the gaze behind the eyes. And again, you're more than welcome to stay in open wing or reversed wing a little longer. Within your own time, you can begin to gradually unravel from that shape. And depending on where you are, you may be moving the opposite arm first, you may be moving the legs first as you gradually release. As long as you don't rush, there's no right or wrong way to do this. From releasing the stretch, you may be guided immediately into rebound, or you may be taking a few intuitive movements. You are organically and naturally being invited to do something, whether it's a twist or windshield wipering the knees, or maybe rolling to a different side of the body. But then again, we'll allow ourselves to pause. Not only are we stopping to smell the roses here, but we're also physically feeling the fascia contract back on a very subtle level. Sometimes sensations within the nervous system may reveal a little more of a pulse or a sense of heat or coolness. Or there's a sense of presence that you feel your awareness and your body connected. And if you'd like to stay in your rebound a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. Or whenever you're ready, you'll take as many movements as you'd like to come back to a seated shape. And again, no rush to do that. Take your time. But we're going to be prepping ourselves for 2 stretches. Okay, so this time we're going to come into 2 stretches back to back and then a rebound. And what we're going to do, I'll show you first, and then you can kind of set up your props. We're going to start in toe stretch. So I'll give you some variations, but option 1 is to take a blanket underneath the knees. Your toes are going to tuck against the floor as you sit back on the heels. Now, if this is too much sensation too quick, allow yourself to come to the palms. Maybe take a pillow or blanket and support your forearms as you lean forward. Okay, that may be great. Now, for whatever reason, if you're working and healing something with the knees, you're going to allow yourself to sit flat, taking your left foot, you'll place it over the right ankle and you'll hold this here. Okay, so option 1 or 2, either coming to sit here to work more through the ankle, or you'll be taking toe stretch. But remember, that's just the first shape. Once we unravel, so for example, I would either come back that way or come forward, we're going to find ourselves in sleeping swan. So then immediately, left knee draws up, right leg goes back long. Maybe you still have that blanket underneath that back right knee. Maybe you're going to take a pillow or blanket to support the left hip. And taking as many pillows here as you'd like, or maybe you fold them as you support your chest or head or belly to come down, right? Or maybe you sink a little more. Okay, so it really depends. So I'll talk about sleeping swan once we get there, but just so you know, that's what we're going to do. So maybe you just prep yourself for those props that you know you want to use for sleeping swan, and then at least take a blanket underneath your sitting bones if you're going to take that ankle variation, or you'll bring the blanket for the knees to take toe stretch. And because we're going to be doing this on both sides to eventually get to the right, if you are in that seated shape to take the left ankle over, you'll do the right side on the opposite. Okay, so once you've found your shape, we'll close the eyes. We'll settle into stillness. This toe stretch or ankle stretch may be a little more intense than our first stretch of the day. But in what ways can this also be an inviting experience for us? Can we relax the eyebrows and soften through the jaw and the tongue? Can we release through the shoulders and the collarbones? You may be able to soften through the belly and the hips. Also relaxing the muscles of the glutes, but keep breathing here. Again, you can relax through the backs of the knees, feeling the calves release. Now at this point in time, we'll slowly open the eyes just enough to see around us. And we'll begin to hinge forward to unravel from the toes. Now you may just be releasing the ankle if you were sitting in that variation, or you're untucking one foot and then the other. Right? Maybe you pause there and everybody can roll through the ankles just for a moment. But remember, we're not rebounding. So lean a little bit more forward, guide your left knee up, right leg back long to take Sleeping Swan. Now again, for Sleeping Swan, you can literally be on the shin itself with the top of the foot to the mat, or you can bring that shin a little bit more forward, kind of making a pigeon stretch, right? But it's not pigeon here because we want ourselves to relax. So of course, at any point in time when you enter this, if your right hip also needs a blanket, you can bring it on top of the left heel in between the right hip, and that may also even out the tailbone and maybe a little more comfortable. Sometimes I do that for myself. If Sleeping Swan does not work best for your body, you'll come to lay on your back and you'll take Figure 4, allowing the left ankle over the right thigh. Right foot staying on the ground, or you can pick that right foot up and take some props around you so that you can bring that foot a little more elevated to create stretch. So wherever you are, you'll find the logistics of the stretch. Notice what props are helpful. Notice what props may not be helpful. And then we'll close our eyes and come to stillness. Maybe we are really noticing the feet rebounding here. You have sensations, subtle sensations through the toes, through the balls of the feet, maybe more into the arches or the ankles. All while simultaneously entering into this new experience of Sleeping Swan. Allowing yourself to soften when you're ready. As we continue to soften and let go of unnecessary tension, allowing ourselves to release unnecessary control. The experience creates within itself healing rather than just a task to complete. And even just if some of your window is lightly dusted off today, that still counts as healing. Continue to stay present here. Checking in with the breath. Checking in with that internal gaze behind the eyes. And you're more than welcome to stay in Sleeping Swan a little longer, or very slowly and intuitively, you'll begin to awaken the palms and the arms as you start to walk yourself up and out of the stretch. Sometimes it feels good to send that left leg behind you, straightening out the knee and rolling through the ankle. But again, this is just natural, right? All of a sudden, my body wants to shake a little side to side, maybe find a few rounds of cat-cow. But whatever is best for you here, no right or wrong. Whatever feels organic, whatever feels natural. As I begin to lay down on my back, hugging my knees into the chest, I'll take rebound relaxed this way. But maybe for you, maybe you're in child's pose, maybe you're on your belly or you're rolled to your side body. Sometimes for certain healing practices, there will be a protocol or some, rules to follow. But within Yin, a lot of our healing takes place as we allow the intuitive body to guide us. That gut instinct or that heart instinct or that inner voice. And as we pause in this rebound, we can notice the awareness and the presence of our entire self here. Not only noticing the breath, but maybe even the mechanism of how the body breathes. You're more than welcome to stay here in rebound for as long as you'd like. Or you can slowly awaken the feet, awaken the arms. I'll stretch my arms up above the head. I'll move my legs one at a time. And then I'll roll over and make my way back to a seated shape. You can meet me there whenever you're ready. Now remember, we're going to be doing something else before entering that right side of Sleeping Swan. So if you did sit down to take the left ankle over the right, this time again, you're sitting to hold that right ankle over the left side. If you've already taken toe stretch, now we're going to come into ankle stretch. So with ankle stretch, I still have a blanket underneath me. I untuck my toes for the top of my feet to touch the floor. As I sit back on my heels, I'm going to want to push down to lift my knees. And then to do that, I'm going to take a blanket or a pillow or a book or whatever you want to use. I'll use a blanket to prop my shins. By having this lift of the knees, that creates more stretch. So if that feels like a lot, just stay low to the ground, right? You'll feel something. If you want a little more, that's when you lift the knees higher. Right? And I'm just bringing my heels together and I'm sitting on my heels. Yes, my ankles are coming out slightly, but some people's won't. So it really just depends on your bones there. Of course, if you feel better with a block, a book, or pillow underneath the glutes and sitting more like in hero's pose and Virasana, this is also a great place to stay if you feel stretch here. So begin to find one of these variations. And then as you find one of these variations, hands can stay in the lap, hands maybe will hang off the sides of the body. Your chin can be neutral, or you can drop the chin and let the head be heavy. And then beginning to arrive into this space. Your breath may be breathing into the sensations themselves first to calm you. And then whenever you're ready, that awareness can begin to explore. Remember to breathe through the shoulders and through the spine. Letting go of that unnecessary tension. Now, depending on what variation you're in, we're going to be coming out of this ankle stretch all a little differently, but we'll want to take our time, right? So still, maybe your hands come down and you'll help yourself lift off of the glutes, or you'll allow the knees to lift a little higher to remove any sort of blanket or pillow there. Even if you were sitting down, you'll unravel through the legs, you'll come forward here, palms to the top. Right knee now will come up towards that right wrist in some way so that we can take sleeping swan on the right, and even as we're releasing from the foot stretch, we still may be feeling those subtle sensations and that rebound effect for the feet as we're entering sleeping swan. Remember, you can have that right shin directly underneath you. Maybe you don't even lower, maybe you do, or you do bring that shin a little bit more in front of you, propping the right hip bone, propping the left hip between your left hip and your right heel, if helpful. And of course, coming to the belly, maybe allowing the chest to be supported with any pillows or blankets. Of course, if that figure 4 option is more helpful, allow yourself to find that. And then within your own time, we'll begin to close our eyes and we'll come to stillness. Beginning to notice the sensations of stretch that sleeping swan brings. Also reflecting on that experience from not only the ankle stretch, but also the toe stretch. Maybe you can feel yourself softening a little differently here. There's no sense of an order, no rules or regulations. Understanding that the body or the tight fascia that we feel does not have to be completely, quote unquote, fixed in order for this to be productive. talk about healing. Whatever is being healed does not have to be completely fixed, all gone, all perfect, in order for us to feel satisfied, in order for us to feel proud, in order for us to feel happy. You can find those emotions throughout the experience of healing. The light coming through the window, reflection, shadow, darkness, it can all exist in one place. All of it needing our intention. Now from here, you're more than welcome to stay in Sleeping Swan. Whenever you're ready, that's when the palms can come down, gently lifting the head and chest up. Your eyes can be closed, your gaze can be soft, not looking at anything specific. And just finding these intuitive movements. Maybe it's awakening through the legs or reaching up through the arms. Sometimes they'll look like yoga shapes, and sometimes it's going to just be your own natural movement. And then whenever you're ready, you'll take that pause and rebound. Maybe you're sitting. Maybe you're laying down or in some other shape. But again, you'll close the eyes to take that pause and stillness. Allowing yourself to observe and to reflect. Maybe even feeling the ease of the breath or your body taking sudden deep breaths. Noticing how the nervous system can reset itself. Even that counts as healing. But letting your body soften even in this pause of observation. Feeling the interconnectedness through not only the fascia, but through all of our body parts jointly. And then from here, you can decide to stay in your rebound shape a little longer if you'd like. Or very mindfully, you'll come back to a seated shape. No rush to get there. Okay, taking any movements along the way. And then from here, we're going to allow ourselves to come into a forward fold. Now with this, well, I'll face this way, but with this forward fold, we're going to come into dragonfly. And dragonfly has our legs into this V shape. Now, a few things. One, you may want to take a blanket or a pillow to prop your tailbone. I like to do that. If for whatever reason, your knees, maybe you're really tight in your hamstrings and your knees don't bend or they don't straighten and you're here, maybe it's just one leg. What you'll do is, if you can find a pillow or another blanket around, you want to create that connection so that the leg can soften onto something, whether it's both knees or one knee. Also, if your legs hyperextend and really straighten here, you'll also want to take that blanket and pillow just to lift it off the ground. Okay, but from there, you'll find your pillows. My bolster here can serve as like 2 or 3 pillows, and then you'll gently fold, right? Maybe you have them a little more vertical to support the belly, folding this way, or maybe you keep your props a little more horizontal. Sometimes it could feel good to wrap that pillow around your belly and walk your armpits over that blanket or pillow and let the body soften this way. Or maybe you use a little more rounding of the pillows or folding of the blankets to support the forehead and other things like that. Okay, so no right or wrong here. Once you found the best place for dragonfly, you can close your eyes and come to stillness. And remembering, since that fascia is all interconnected, you may feel more sensation coming from one leg. It doesn't have to be evenly through both. Sometimes you're feeling more sensation through the spine or back, maybe even the neck. And even if you're feeling multiple sensations at once, you could be stretching a little more deeply for one area, and somehow simultaneously it's too much for another area. So we'll want to honor the place within the body that's telling you to slow down or to soften or to back up. So for example, a lot of my experiences, especially when I began yin, my experiences were folding forward was always intense, right? Not so much for my hamstrings, but for my neck. So no matter what, my healing, I couldn't force myself to stay in extreme stretches, thinking that that would heal my hamstrings, right? The healing took place by softening, realizing I needed to back up, and first honor that fascia within my neck, because once that healed or healed more, then I had more space through my upper back, then in the middle, then in the lower, then I could stretch. Right? So healing is this full body spectrum, right? Like that whole entire window. Healing has experiences of both comfort and discomfort, but it does not have to be cumbersome. Maybe like the comparison to the kitchen. Can we feel satisfied, comforted, and loved exactly where we are here at this moment? Even though it may not be exactly what you want, can it also feel productive? Now, of course, if you'd like to stay in dragonfly a little longer, you're welcome to. Or whenever you're ready, that's when we'll allow the hands to come down, move slowly. This benefits the fascia as it contracts back. You could feel good even sitting here for a moment until maybe your hands come behind you, your knees bend, and you can windshield wiper. Maybe it feels good to straighten the legs or even cross the legs. You can side body stretch with the arms lifted. Maybe you twist through one side of the body and then twist to the other side. Taking as many movements that you'd like for the upper body, middle body, lower body. And then we'll all pause into that space for rebound unless you're already there. The fascia is still contracting back to the joints, muscles, bones, and organs that it was stretching from. This gives us the time to notice and to feel into that. Maybe you notice this feeling of freshness, this presence of awareness. And in some ways, it's like this act of being seen. Through our yin practice, we can fully come into a place to be seen by ourselves and our minds and our hearts and our bodies. So if you'd like to stay in rebound a little longer, you're more than welcome to. But whenever you're ready, we'll slowly make our way back to a seated shape so that we can come into another double stretch. Okay, so just like we did toe stretch into ankle stretch, or toe stretch into sleeping swan, and then we rebounded, we're gonna do something similar to that. Actually, I need some of these props. So we're gonna come to lay down. I'm gonna have a pillow underneath my head just because I'm comfortable there. And we're gonna start in dove. So with dove, our knees bend, feet flat to the floor. Now I'm gonna open my left leg out to the side, and maybe my left foot walks underneath my right thigh. But just so you can see it from the other side here, right? The knee can open like this to feel supported with a pillow or blanket. Maybe it walks underneath, and you're still gonna support. And because this may cause like a diagonal for the hips, it could feel good to also support the opposite hip with a blanket. But again, that's for you to figure out once you're in your body, or in the shape, I should say. So remember, it's gonna be a double stretch. We're gonna take dove. Then this left knee is gonna unravel and hug into the chest. That will guide us to twist over the right side of the body. So at that point, after dove, when we hug the knee into the chest to twist, maybe you make it more of like a twisted root shape, wrapping around, right? Or maybe you just create more of like a windshield wiper shape and everything is a little more space. Possibly even taking a pillow or blanket to prop the knee. Of course, if it's beneficial for you to keep the knees high into the chest and take a supine twist, do that. And again, you can always prop the inner thighs. All right, so feel free to find your own shape here, but we're gonna start in dove, knees bent, feet flat to the floor. That left foot opens out to the side. The left knee can stay exactly where it is, or maybe it goes a little bit more on a diagonal or forward, depending how much you walk that left foot underneath your right leg. Beautiful. From there, your hands can rest near you or along the floor, taking up some space, or they can rest up above the head. If you haven't softened into the pose, maybe you can begin to do so. As you relax through the scalp, softening through the eyebrows, relaxing through the cheeks of the face as we unclench the teeth and relax the jaw and the tongue. As we soften into the sides of the neck, allowing the throat to open, we may feel this drop within the shoulders as the chest expands above us. Beginning to breathe in between the spaces of the ribs so that we can relax in and around the skin of the belly. Relaxing through the muscles of the glutes to help soften through the thighs and into the knees. Feeling that release through the calves and into the arches of the feet. Releasing any burdens from the heels of the feet and the balls of the feet. Finding space between the toes. As we continue to let ourselves soften here, it's not just about that outer layer. It's also letting our awareness travel through the inner layers. Softening more deeply and more interconnectedly. So from here, you're more than welcome to stay in dove. But whenever you choose to come into the twist, we can slowly unravel that left leg. You may even hug that left thigh or shin into the chest until we let our hands guide that left leg over the right side of the body. Now remember, you can come into any of those twist options. More of a twisted roots as the legs wrap around, or sometimes we call this eagle stretch, right, through a vinyasa experience. But we want to soften. Or maybe we leave the legs more in a windshield wiper shape, or we bring both knees high into the chest for supine. You may need to walk on your shoulder blades a little bit, making sure that right shoulder blade's tucked underneath you enough. And again, your arms can rest near you, or you can take up a little more space on the floor. Or maybe you come into a variation I didn't mention. Okay. And then, of course, we'll soften when you're ready. Letting the intuitive body guide you through all of these different shapes, even the ones that you find yourself. Through our patience and healing, we can acknowledge that inner wisdom, that inner knowing. Maybe we can check in and allow the body again to soften, letting go of whatever we are carrying. Staying present. Now within this presence, you can stay within the stretch, within your twist a little longer. Or you may be ready to unravel from that twist slowly, taking your time. We may bring that left leg back down, readjust ourselves on our tailbone. And it could feel good to hug the knees into the chest, reaching the forehead up, stretching from the back body. And of course, taking any other movements, whether both legs reach up towards the ceiling to roll through the ankles, or maybe the arms stretch up above you. Maybe the arms wrap around the chest in some way. So we are taking that moment just to let the fascia have a chance to contract back, right? Remembering that strong, stretchy elastic expands, but it also contracts back as we release from the poses. We won't rebound too long here because this will be our last sequence before coming into Shavasana. So whenever you're ready, again, knees will bend, feet will come flat to the floor so that we can take our dove stretch on the right side. Now you simply may open that right knee out to the side and take a pillow or blanket. Maybe your right foot walks underneath your left thigh in any way. And of course, once you've decided the best place for that right leg, supporting the knee, thigh, or hips, then you can find the best place for the arms. Letting the palms find space, relaxing through the fingers. As we arrive into our yin shapes, in the same ways as sometimes we arrive into healing, we're not bringing with us the sense of a to-do list, trying not to carry with us any sort of desires. Sometimes there's specific requests, of course, but we're not carrying this interpretation of how it's supposed to be. We want to even let go of that unnecessary tension around that idea of how it's supposed to be. Can we let the body and the mind share with us? Can the heart and the breath speak to us? And of course, you can stay here in dove for a little longer if you'd like. But just so you know, whenever you're ready, we'll begin to prepare ourselves for that twist. As we start to unravel that right leg, maybe even the left leg. But by hugging that right knee into the chest, the left hand and maybe even the right hand helps us twist over the opposite side of the body. Of course, taking your time to get there. This side of the body may desire a different shaped twist, and that's fine. That's the beauty of the practice. Again, arms can rest near you, a little bit farther from you, or high above the head. And of course, within your own time, you can allow yourselves to soften and to surrender here within the stretch. Allowing yourselves to not only soften through the physical experience itself, but we're also softening into this stillness and into the quiet. Based on the stretch, sometimes the heart may need a little more softening, sometimes the mind will need a little more softening. Continue to check in with your breath. Maybe you even check in with that inner gaze behind the eyes. And just notice whatever you're seeing or whatever you're feeling or whatever you're hearing. Now from here, whenever you're ready, we'll start to slowly transition out of any twists that you're finding yourself within. That right knee can come back to a center. You may walk yourself on your hips or your shoulder blades again. And then from here, taking any final counter stretches or counter movements, whatever feels most natural or intuitive to the body. Sometimes even rubbing your hands along your body in some ways, what will feel intuitive. And then we'll begin to prepare ourselves for Shavasana. So no rush to that, but we'll want to take any props around us that will make us feel comfortable. So maybe you have a pillow or two, maybe you have a blanket or two. I usually take something to prop underneath my knees and calves. And then maybe you bring a blanket on top of your feet or on top of your body if you're feeling a little cooler. And for our Shavasana assist, we'll do this one laying on our back. So if you are going to use a cream or oil today, you'll still find that near you. And again, if you don't have anything, we'll still rub our hands together to create that heat and create that friction. Right? So maybe you take a few drops of that cream or oil for yourself. Either way, when you're ready, hands start to rub together, creating the awareness within the palms. And then as you notice any sense around you, your hands may start to rub into the back of the neck. Sometimes it just feels good to rub along your earlobes or pull at the ears a little bit. It may feel relaxing to you to take your index fingers and rub along the temples of your forehead. And then you may have some excess heat of the palms or excess cream or oil. And you can always just rub down one arm, rub down the opposite arm. And then, of course, whenever you're ready, becoming fully comfortable here, taking any final last movements, allowing the feet and the hands to have space. And then, of course, closing the eyes when you're fully ready. As we allow our entire practice to be absorbed by the body here, no rush at all. We'll begin to find ourselves within that experience of Shavasana. Let's begin to gently deepen our breath as we come back to the presence of our inhales and the release of our exhales, and gently coming back into the space of our bodies, and gently coming back into the space of your room, and into the room that we energetically share. Maybe even feeling subtle sensations from the previous stretches, subtle sensations from even your own Shavasana assists. As we continue to build this presence of awareness, you can start to welcome any gentle movements as you awaken. That may be for the hands and feet. Then next, you're welcome to lift the arms up above the head to fully stretch. It may feel good to you to bend into the knees. You can hug them all the way into the chest, or maybe you wrap around the backs of the thighs. But within your own time, you can intuitively roll to one side of the body. Maybe you choose to end your practice there, or you're welcome to push down into the floor and come back to a seated shape. No rush. However you're deciding to end your practice, again, you'll find stillness and reclosing the eyes in case they've opened. Allowing yourself again to observe and reflect here. Maybe even envisioning this sense of the window, allowing all parts of us to be seen and heard and felt. Together, we'll find one cleansing breath. Let's inhale through the nose. And then open the lips to exhale. You're welcome to guide your hands into a prayer shape at heart center as we close our class with the sound of Om, taking a deep breath in. Very gently bowing your chin towards your chest. Thank you for practicing with me this evening, being elevated through yoga. Namaste.